meetings. Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up today, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I'm pleased to present two people who are experts at producing unique, scalable live events, building communities, and all the while doing well while doing good. I promise you will leave today thinking, wow, who knew? And you'll also leave smarter and more inspired than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. The second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and please make some new ones. And also ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the session. Also, please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this series free. Special thank you to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brew Works, Project Music, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Michael Dorf. Michael came to New York City in 1986 and founded the go-to venue for independent music, the Knitting Factory, and served the first 15 years as CEO, expanding the brand into Europe and Asia via tours, festivals, and producing over 200 recordings, TV shows, etc. Michael was recognized as a pioneer in producing music on the internet through a variety of strategic relationships with Apple Computer, Intel, and Bell Atlantic. During this time, he created the Digital Club Network, and in 2002, he left the NIT to pursue other endeavors, including a Carnegie Hall concert fundraiser series, founding a Hebrew school, and winemaking. In 2008, Michael created City Winery Manhattan, Manhattan's first fully functional winery, restaurant, music venue, and private event space. In the past 15 years, he has expanded City Winery to 14 locations, including Chicago, Nashville, Atlanta, Boston, Philadelphia, Hudson Valley, Grand Central Station, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and has several more scheduled to open in 2024 in Detroit and Columbus. Sorry about that, guys. Michael has become the most prolific independent promoters in New York, an important music impresario, and according to the New Yorker, has perfected the art of the tribute concert. Over 17 years, the fundraiser series has honored legends such as Aretha Franklin, Bob Dylan, and Prince, while raising over $1.5 million for music education nonprofits. He serves on the board of the American Symphony Orchestra, Newport and Jazz Festivals, and is currently chairman of Lab Shul Shora Telling. Welcome, Michael. It is a pleasure to have you here, man.
Pleasure. Although I think you made a mistake. I can't be a smart person. You've never called me to headhunt, and doing all that stuff is really dumb. But let's hear about Laurie.
Not at all. And joining Michael is Laurie Kirby. Laurie owns and produces festforums.com in New York City, San Francisco, and its flagship show in Santa Barbara, California. Fest Forums is a B2B conference that awards event for music, film, food, and wine festival organizers. The conference addresses how to improve the fan attendee talent experience at festivals. Laurie was the former president and chief creative officer, say that 3 times fast, of the IFFS, International Film Festival Summit, and IMFCon, International Music Festival Conference and Lineup Magazine. She has also managed and consulted for dozens of film festivals and filmmakers, as well as served as a producer and consultant on many independent films. She was an attorney for over 20 years and established the Legends Tour, the senior division of the LPGA. She was general counsel to the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. She's represented professional athletes, newscasters, musicians, golf properties, and nonprofits. She began her career as the assistant prosecutor and trial attorney in Middletown, Rhode Island. She's a frequent speaker, interviewer, and moderator at dozens of festivals and corporate conferences, including IFEA, BizBash, TourLink, San Francisco Music Tech, Maui Music Tech, Sponsor Secrets, Canadian Music Week, IEG, Event Expo, the Mill Valley Film Festival, Polestar. Lord, how many more of these, lady? I'm going to cut it off there. There's a dozen more on the list here, guys. Additionally, she is often quoted as an industry thought leader in publications such as Variety, IndieWire, Forbes, The Street, AMP, and Music Festival Business. It is an honor to welcome these two rock stars to our platform. Please take it away, guys, and enjoy the session.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. So this is a mess that I got Michael into because I think so highly of him, and I just had him speaking at my conference. So I'm going to lead off by.
I loved your conference, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's
really
such
nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we call it a place where people hug instead of shake hands.
Yeah, there was a lot of hugging. I mean, I got COVID right after it, but I mean,
Right?
a lot
It's
of
unrelated. And we literally had fireside chats, did we not? Like literally fireside chats.
yeah, no, it was smoky in there.
Yeah, it was a little bit. So, Michael, you and I have a lot of things in common. We love music. We love good wine. We love Newport. But I want to hear a little bit more about sort of what drives you, what moves you, what, your background and sort of how you got to where you are. Just kind of an overview of it. Like how did you get going in all of this?
I like to tell the story really of sort of pre-high school, even, where I wanted to learn to play guitar, and I had to recognize that I have no talent and suck, and after like 2 years of trying to get the first couple bars of Stairway to Heaven, I just wasn't getting there anywhere. And my friends, again, this is 12, 13, 14 years of age. My friends were so good and natural, and they would listen to something on the radio, and we're all sitting there, and then they'd go to the piano and play or sing. And so it's just, it was a process of being frustrated and realizing that, all right, I guess I'm not going to be part of the band. And so how can I still be part of the band? And so I just early on got involved in doing sound and lights and promotion and marketing, and because I wanted to be part of it, I wanted to be, part of the production. And so, luckily, on one hand, it was kind of humiliating, because once I became clear that, I have a role, and that there is a role to play in having the stage and everything that happens in the interaction with an audience, like being part of the process, I still felt, I understood my place. And so, that's how I got into it. And then it just was, got to read the long version of it in the book, but like, the wanting to be on the stage, but not having any talent.
So this is great. Two talentless people who failed at being actors and musicians, then live out their dream through others.
Yeah, I think it's not even like, look, we're not the rock stars, but we're part of the process. Again, I love having a stage and seeing that connection between the fan and the artist, and the energy and the magic that's created on a nightly basis. And I know, in the event business, there's a very similar feeling of success of a conference, when you see the chatter and the mingling that happens, especially the rush of the stage to a speaker and people who want to interact, and like that is the definition of success.
Yeah, we get to be the architects of that. And it's like being proud parents, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, very much. And you know, and then the level of, you know, the fact that someone like Graham Nash, who I just revere, you know, as a singer-songwriter, actually appreciates what we do, you know, and when we do it right, you know, that we have good food, you know, for him backstage, and we treat him with respect, and we have everything ready for the sound check, and you know, it doesn't hurt that all the shows are always sold out, but like that, you know, we elevate the experience for him or any artist, and they see that, and they see it reflected then in the energy that's in the room as well, because we're trying to do that for the audience. So I think some people recognize the work that you do in another way, at another level, that makes what we do then feel more fulfilling.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Graham Nash, because I'm actually going to see him next month. I sit on the Libero board and he's performing there. And the first private concert I ever did was Crosby, Stills and Nash in Newport, Rhode Island. They got paid $250,000 to come and perform for a wedding anniversary. And I got, and it's actually fun. What's really funny is I now know, you know, Stuart Ross, obviously.
Sure.
He was representing them. I got the contract from all of them. And it was so egregious. I said, you know what, to my client, just wire the money and don't sign the contract, because the guys will show up, because all they want is the money. And I have to say, Graham Nash, and he sang Our House to them, which was so cute, was the most lovely. And I've, you know, having known and dealt with them all, you knew Chris Stills obviously was at our conference performing, and just saw all the guys. Yeah. Recently, but yeah, he's a lovely gentleman. You're asking us if we're going to Newport Folk or Jazz. I don't know if people know, I'm originally from Newport, Rhode Island.
I didn't know that.
And one of the questions you asked me was how I went from, we were talking about how I went from practicing law to, you know, changing my career. And I had started out, I just told this story recently, I started out as a theater arts major. And the classes were just too weird. It was like lie on the ground and act like a worm. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. So I quickly switched to history and went on to law school. But being from Newport, I was asked to be on the board of the film festival, which had been started in reaction to George Wein, who we both know and loved. Yeah. Who we honored at Fest Forums, as you know. Yeah. Just a wonderful, lovely man, and just a legend. And so the film festival was born out of the idea that that folk festival was so successful. And so I was on the board, and then was going to be the next chair, and they needed a new executive director. So I switched hats. And, wow. And the rest is history.
How long were you there?
I was their ED for 5 years.
Amazing.
And I love Newport. It's my home. All my children were born there.
Oh, how cool.
And it's a beautiful place. And I understand you've been involved with the festival.
Well, I'm going there this year for 10 days, from Friday night of folk festival all the way to Sunday night of jazz. Been wanting to do that for a bunch of years, because the idea of driving in and out. Oh, and I'm bringing my bike so that I can ride into the festival rather than have to park, because it's so insane. Yeah, I got, when George started his nonprofit as a way to keep the legacy of the festivals going after, you know, he was gone. I got the honor of being asked to join the board, and so we actually just had a board meeting just yesterday, as sort of coincidentally. Yeah, it's amazing. Jazz is almost sold out this year. It's never really been able to sell out. Folk always goes super fast, but we're getting jazz to that same place where they both just are these special, you know, it's just such a special ground, and it's limited to only 10,000-ish, you know, a day. So you get this more intimate festival feeling. It's certainly not as intimate as City Winery, but it's
Yeah.
still, for a festival, it's one of the great places to see it. And, Jay has done a very good job
He has.
of keeping the torch really well lit. George and I didn't start out in the most friendly way, actually. He's one of the special people in my life for sure. I started a jazz festival in New York in reaction to what was the JVC Jazz Festival.
Mhm.
And it was really just to get my mark, because we were doing such alternative jazz downtown at the Knitting Factory. And, between Winton and the whole Lincoln Center thing and George, we were the alternative. We were the Ornette Coleman, Cecil Taylor. And so had hit the press conference, which, by the way, he used to put out just a huge food spread for his, and I would go in and, a lot of us in the community would go and eat and enjoy it. But I was handing out my flyers to my festival, and he saw me, didn't, he was like, oh, who's this kid in shorts, distributing flyers. The next year, same thing, and I'm smarter now. I'm bringing like empty bags, like my grandma, to a bar mitzvah or something, and filling it with food and handing out my postcards. And George is at the podium, and he's acknowledging his partners from JVC and this dignitary. And he was like, and I see Michael Dorf from his What Is Jazz Festival downtown handing out, good luck again this year, Michael. He was such a mensch, and where he could have just had security remove me. And basically that next year he called me, and it was like, let's have dinner and talk. And had a big wine collection, and he became this like elderly, fatherly supporter. And just, just one of the rare relationships where, he explained why I lost a sponsorship with Verizon one year. And he just was a true mentor, of which I've not really had that many. Have you had mentors?
I have had no mentors. My daughter is my mentor. I take a page out of her book. She's a really successful influencer and blogger, and she hates when I say influencer, but she's a writer, a blogger, and I have taken so much knowledge from her because I was probably afraid to go out on my own, and she really provided that. My mother was a doctor, but she wasn't much of a mentor, I would say, except for perhaps to be a professional and to have a professional career. And I think that probably what we both learned from George and others around us, it's better to be collaborative. Like, there is no such thing in my mind as a competitor, because there's always an opportunity for us to collaborate. And if not, if you're going to really compete with me, then I'm just going to work that much harder and be that much better, and always try to be the better person. And really, to me, that's really the most important thing about what we do, is do it with integrity, honesty, transparency, using all the tools in our toolkit of being the most humanistic person that we can. And I think that always shines through. And that's probably led to both of our successes, probably more than anything else.
I agree with you. And I think, George Wein understood that in a way I didn't. And to be like, I was the young wanting to compete. He was the big bad, promoter. And, there was, obviously the Ron Delsner, that rock world, but in jazz, it was George, and he did exactly that. He just embraced me. We ended up doing a series in Lincoln Center called Knitting Factory Goes Uptown, of which I had like Cassandra Wilson and Bill Frisell and John Zorn and all these people that he didn't know, Medeski Martin Wood, he didn't know them. And then they ended up playing all the time in this festival over the years. So he way smarter than me. Now he's someone who should have.
He was the smartest guy in the room, but he's not in this room anymore. He's
up there.
Music up there.
He lived a great
He
life.
did a great long life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how's your golf game these days?
That's the secret sauce of my life. I am really enjoying my golf game. I've played for a long time. I've been very involved in the golf world. Um, Particularly, I loved my stint. I wish I was as good a golfer as I was a lawyer, but I really love the game. It's really an important part of my life. I love the rules of the game. I love the grace and the dignity that goes with it. I love just so many wonderful elements of it. The presentness, it's like surfing, which I used to do. Every hole is different. Every shot is different. It's really a very zen sport for me, and it's opened me up. It's a great sport for women to play in who are in business. Truly, I encourage women to get involved in it because it's always been such a male-dominated sport that it's a
Yeah.
great way for women to be part of what happens in the business world, because a lot of business happens on the golf course, particularly in the corporate world, maybe not as much on the music side. But, I've gotten to play with great actors, and, I played with Luke Wilson, Alice Cooper, all these guys are tremendous golfers.
Yeah.
And so, I right now I'm playing a couple times a week and really enjoying it. And it's been an important part of my life, and it was an important part of my career. And I think you and I were talking a little bit about what's going on in the golf world, in the women's golf world. I know we're digressing a little bit about off our music path, but I think women have had the short end of the stick when it comes to the professional rewards that the male golf world has seen. And so, with all the changes and what's happening in golf, we'll see if women get to start to reap some of those benefits.
I hope so. I mean, I was gonna make, I know we're not supposed to have politics on this, and well, Tom, don't worry, we'll honor that, but
Oh, I didn't say I'd honor that. Just kidding,
LPGA,
Tom.
the LPGA is now the only tour in golf not owned by the Saudis. And
The senior
right.
LPGA.
So that's really amazing. And
Well, they own a European tour, and quite frankly, I know that the women of the LPGA would probably be open to exploring it, because they too want to have some financial gain, and I have my own opinions about it. I think that if they are going to go that route, I think they need to push some political levers of power to say, because they are the exclusive one, make some demands on the Saudis. And I think this all came about through ways that I won't go into, but I suspect most people would recognize why this is happening.
sure.
But I think if we can hold this, they are sports washing their money. Yeah. But if maybe there are ways to hold them to account and force them to clean up their act, even if it's not, it's not a female friendly country, obviously, but they do support the European.
It's moving a little bit that way. It seems, in the last couple of years. I'm actually friendly. You and I never talked about this with Christy Kerr.
Oh yeah.
And her husband, Eric. And so I've been getting a little bit of the, perspective from them, and it's fascinating. And I think she would be open to, some of those financial
rewards
for, and she's one of the most, decorated female golfers, and it's still, not even close to what the men get.
No, the men's tours make 8 times more than the women's tours.
Yeah.
And I was there during the days of Ty Bota, and I did the deal with him. He was the commissioner of the LPGA, and I was the commissioner of the senior tour. And we put together the deal that made them the official senior tour. And those, unfortunately, the women in that tour, under prior administrations, had lost all of their pension money. So, most of these women who are on the tour, they do it for the love of the golf. Now, the younger women are reaping the financial benefits, but the senior women really got left behind.
So here's a segue, transition back to our worlds a little bit. So how we both want to have as much integrity in our our lives as possible. I'm sure what goes around comes around, and karma. And at what point would you ever draw the line on a sponsor that lacked what you felt was appropriate integrity, and say no, even if the money was really, really needed? Or, in my world, it could be particular artists as views. Like, how far do we get involved in the censorship that goes against the balancing act of trying to run a business?
I've been lucky. I haven't had to do that. I think, through the law of attraction, I've been able to have sponsors and partners, because I view them as partners, that I'm always aligned with. And I haven't had to face that question. So the question is, how much would I sell out for?
Well, that could be the next question.
Yeah, it is a very interesting, it's an interesting question. I really faced it more when I was running film festivals and curating films. Would I show a film that was something like that didn't align with my views? And that's a trickier and slipperier slope. And I've had some interesting people that have come into my world. Of course, the indie film world tends to trend more in alignment with probably how I think. So it hasn't really crossed my plate all that often, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Maybe it's because there's just not enough money at stake. You know what I mean? Tell me about you. I mean, I'd be curious to know, have you had to sell out? Is there fill in blank artist?
We've never had a sponsorship offer from, say, the KKK or,
cigarettes,
Hamas or something.
I mean, cigarettes would be a tough one, right?
Yeah, I mean, early on, that was part of it. We're our own liquor company. So, I mean, we're already a sin creator in the sin industry. So, liquor's not a thing for us. We did make some non-alcoholic wine for a little while, and we were calling it kids wine. And I got some negative comments from the public going like, well, why don't you just bundle it with candy cigarettes and sell,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Who doesn't love a good candy cigarette?
Luckily we haven't really had, we've had some things where we had some water companies, that brands that were owned by Nestle, and then there was some questions and we were getting comments from people about Nestle, so we took a stand on that.
Yeah.
So we try and review the different partnerships, and it's hard. There's no question. When we present a lot of comedy these days, which has been great, right? Comedy's just been.
Comedy's blowing up.
It's on fire. Yeah.
It's really the new direction. I do want to switch gears for a minute, because I think Michelle has a really interesting question about live stream platforms, and you and I were sort of talking about that too. I use live streaming for the sole purpose of providing a way for people to get the information about what we do. This is not as applicable for what you do, so that I can disseminate the information. I am an educator, and I believe in education and networking and collaboration. That's why I do what I did. I ran so many film festivals, and I saw how poorly they could be managed, and they really had a need for professionalism. And the same in music. A lot of people go into it as a hobbyist, and then they really don't have the tools to create a successful business. So the live streaming element of what I do is there for the sole purpose of providing that service to people who might be disabled or unable to come, or can't afford to come to the conference. But I believe in in-person events 100%. And it maybe I'm old school, maybe that's because that's what festivals are, maybe because I believe that's the biological imperative, is we all want to be part of a tribe. So I'm not a proponent of those kinds of virtual events. I mean, the people come to my conference to network, but there's a place for it. And I don't know about you. Is there a component of that in what you do?
I mean, I could go on this subject for a real long time. I mean, the benefit of, for me in my life now, has been able to have started one fun, great brand knitting factory, and we did so much great stuff, and then start another thing, be able to really look back and do every mistake I made and try and fix some of them. And one of the biggest mistakes, and it wasn't a mistake, I wouldn't change a thing, but learning from what I do and want to do and what I don't want to do. I overdosed on both technology and media capture. Like, so, you know, I guess I wanted to be a big macher in the record business. Macher, it's a great word.
Is a great word.
So in New York, and so, you know, the idea of the Knitting Factory, we started doing Live from the Knitting Factory radio series, and then that led to a huge bunch of releases of Live from the Knitting Factory recordings. It started with A&M Records, and we went independent, which was terrific. And it was almost 300 live recordings, and then that included tours and all this stuff under Live at the Knitting Factory and television. And you know, the world of IP and intellectual property rights and owning, you know, those is very challenging. But I went crazy with the idea of live streaming, because I thought, boy, what a great chance to have the walls of our space be porous and allow for 200, 300 people in the room live to hear the show, you know, and then another 5,000, you know, all over the globe listening to the show. But the ownership rights of the music, of not, and you know, and people like to cover other songs that they didn't write or control. So you're not always dealing with the artist on stage who's performing their music. So now you're dealing with all the various PROs and other, you know, copyright holders, and it gets very messy, especially exploring the new worlds of media.
Right.
When I got a chance to do it all over again. I mean, so let me, before I get, with so many artists that we had, we were part of the sharing of the IP. When you start seeing an artist that you know, and they're looking at you like Larry David, you know, those eyes, and they go like, you know, do you owe me a royalty from that,
right,
that TV thing we shot that aired in Japan? And it's like, you know, no, I don't, but you think I do. And it became a relationship with the artist I just didn't want to have anymore. So when I started City Winery, I made a very conscious decision. I don't even want to stream. And if we do, I'm not participating in it. I'll actually foster it, but we don't own a thing. I don't want to own any more intellectual property for the rest of my life. And I want nothing more than Michelle Schock to see me and give me a big ass hug, because everything is good. We've created this great night, great food, great wine, great atmosphere, amazing music, chemistry. And while it'd be nice to have the recordings for memory, there's so many people are recording it and putting it out this way. I don't want to own any recordings. I really want it to be a moment in time that happens.
Yes.
And as we started talking, like, we present, we let it happen in some sort of hippie free, you know, and then have a great memory, but not participate in trying to capture that and make money from it afterwards.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. We do this for the artists. I mean, and I always say that to people, like, they'll go, why do you have artists? Why do you have music? Like, isn't this we do the work we do so that the artists can make a living and have a connection with their audiences. You know, that's what festivals are. That's what City Winery does. And so I make a conscious decision every time, what's in the best interest of the artist? And controlling the intellectual property is a headache that I don't want to have either. And quite frankly, I don't practice IP law, and I don't want to get in the business of trying to tease it all out.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's about that moment. I mean, we just had a really interesting happen. I'm the board of the Libero Theater, which is the second oldest performing arts theater in the country. It's a beautiful 600 cap theater. And Jack Johnson came, and this is an artist. It's the only artist I can think of that would do this. The power went out in our town in Santa Barbara. And it was so beautiful that he stayed, everyone turned like the flashlight on in their phone, and he stayed and played acoustically.
Yeah.
And just asked people, what do you want me to play? What do you want me to play? That to me is the essence of what music is about and live music is about. And everyone, I mean, we still talk about it now. Everyone talks about what a special moment that was. And so I think what you and I are saying is we don't want to get in the business of doing that. Let other people do that. There are plenty of people out there who are doing it, but that's sort of not the nugget of what we do.
I'm going to address a couple of the webinar, so the chats. One is, Michelle, just to be clear, I didn't give away City Winery trademark IP to the world. That I do own, but
yes,
and I've got a couple of paintings and labels I've done. I own the work I create, but your work I don't ever want to own. I do the PRO question, which is interesting. These are, you know, BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, and the latest and greatest GMR. These I think are really terrible. I'm going to put on record. Just terrible and have not caught up with technology. They're, you know, they charge us venues with blanket licenses so that they don't have to, you know precisely what was performed. And then they claim to pay it out based on formulas on radio, which, you know, play and other that isn't accurate at all. And so, you know, they're collecting on behalf of the artist, which is virtuous, but they don't pay out, you know, to the actual songs that are performed here. And then, you know, this new group, GMR, you know, comes out and says, I want my blanket license. But we didn't add more, you know, and BMI and ASCAP don't go down and so it's one pie, and they're all, you know, so like we should on this call start a new PRO and go around and get blanket licenses. And it's like, you know, it's ridiculous. It's
unbelievable. The self-policing, it's completely insane.
Yeah.
The way that they handle it. You feel, I mean, it feels like the IRS, for God's sakes, coming at you.
Especially, you know, today, you know, where you have blockchain and, you know, all kinds of intelligence that can know what was performed,
right?
Actually get it right to the songwriter or owner of the material in micropayments. So it's timely. There's a real easy way to do it today. And BMI ASCAP, you know, Irving Azoff, sorry, and CSAC, they don't want to change because when it goes into a black box, there's no accuracy to the payout.
Yeah, there's no accountability. I mean, I know my son's a professional musician and toured for many years, and we still laugh about, you know, he'll get like once a month a check for 55 cents because all his music was all over MTV. But you know, that's a bigger issue that I think is sort of out of the depth of my knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what is your philosophy? I'm curious, like, how do you manage people? And because the hardest part of what we do, I believe, is managing people. I don't like to manage people. I don't like conflict.
Yeah.
What do you think are the best ways? Because I think there are probably people out there who are dealing with the same issue.
Well, it's a good question. We have a motto that I've tried to instill in our company. It actually came from a Gary Vaynerchuk talk I heard, but I changed it around a little bit, but it's called kind candor. And it really is, you can express honest, and this is really about, but it can be for any relationship, but we have 1,500 employees now at City Winery. You know, it's crazy. But how do you manage managers who manage managers and good, you know, and the only way you can learn and the only way you can, I think, effectively get something communicated that you want is to say it with kindness.
Yeah.
But to not be inhibited about the candidness of what you want to say. Because if you are too soft because you're afraid the person's going to quit, which happened a lot during the pandemic, everyone was really, really timid because you didn't want people to leave, right? So you're soft shoeing around the subject. It's not helping them because they're not hearing what you're actually frustrated about, or they're not learning from it. So, you can express what you want to get accomplished, and it might be hard, and you just do it with some level of kindness, and it ultimately is a much better communication tool.
I agree. Being a trained lawyer, it's brutal. I mean, I got thrown out of courtrooms. I was 25 years old. I'd go home and cry. And I've had, I've had a really pretty brutal time of it. And I never wanted to be that kind of boss. And I think my parenting style and my management style is very consistent. There's a reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. Just when we were at the Music Academy, one of my staff members put down a big pitcher of water you saw the pianos there on like a God knows how much Steinway. And I had told them all, don't do that. And then I agree with what you're saying in that you manage people and teach them at the same time, because we all need to learn. I need to learn how to be better. Yeah. And I'm okay with people giving me feedback. But at the end of the day, the buck does stop with us. These are our companies. This is our money. This is our reputation on the line. And so my thing is, this is not acceptable behavior. Trying to manage the expectations and laying the groundwork before we go live with things. Because once you're in crisis mode, everybody's hair is on fire. So preparing them to prepare.
What do you do in that? Do you do some team building things before, say, a festival or a conference to get everyone rowing in the same direction? Or do you do one host? Like, how do you? I do
a lot of preparation with my staff. And my thing is, be honest, be kind, be polite. You don't have to accept rudeness. You come to me. If someone behaves inappropriately, I had an incident where we had, and it wasn't Dennis Quaid, but it was someone who represented Dennis Quaid when he was there. And there were some inappropriate remarks that were made to my staff. And I'm so proud that my staff felt safe enough that they could come to me and tell me that something sort of harassing had happened. And I went right to the person. I said, look, this is going to be a teaching moment for you. You're my friend, but you cannot behave this way. And this is a teaching moment for everyone. And I was very proud of my staff that they had done that, because there was a time, myself included, when you would just let that happen. And so I think through transparency and honesty, it's really the only way we move the ball forward on what we do. So I commend you, because I believe exactly in what you're saying as well. And
we hold an annual offsite. I call it base camp, and refuse to call it a retreat, a company retreat.
You advance.
That's exactly my whole spiel, is like, a retreat is going the wrong direction. We want to move forward. And so I much prefer the metaphor of base camp, where you're preparing to climb to a certain peak, and you want to, talk to the team, get aligned on how you're going to get to the top, and a lot of metaphors there that work well. So one of my prepared questions, but I was really excited to ask you is, so you've had some great, you've had some movie stars and film and some musicians on the panels who, like me, love to hear myself talk. So who are some of your favorite any stories of behind the scenes? Like Quentin Tarantino is on stage, but what did he do, behind the stage, or some things that just kind of,
oh gosh, I have a great story. Introducing him to Jack Johnson, because I was taking him to the restroom and I got the only picture with the two of them together shaking hands. And there was this nebbishy guy that kept always trying to, whoever was there would jump in. I literally photoshopped him out of the picture, and I have a great picture of the two of them shaking hands. But Quentin was interesting. He and I drank a really good bottle of red wine before he went on stage. And he's a genius. For anyone who has not heard him, he has a photographic memory of every movie. And, he worked in a video store in the days when there were those things. And I had to shepherd him out. I have never had, I have a funny Nick Nolte story because, and Jeff Bridges too. Most of the stars I have, people are pretty cool around. Quentin Tarantino is in a whole other stratosphere. So I had to escort him out. So the next year, I was lucky enough to have the Coen brothers come because we were honoring T-Bone Burnett. And of course, I love the Coen brothers. So they came in, both of them came, which was, their agent said to me, there's a 1% chance that they'll come.
Yeah.
And they did. And then they both came. And I think because everybody respects T-Bone so much. And so Jeff Bridges was there, and it was a really incredible event. But I said to the Coen brothers, I said, you should see what I went through with Quentin Tarantino. It was a mob scene. I had to literally lead him out. And they both looked at me and they said, nobody knows who we are. And it was cute because really pretty much everyone did leave them alone. But my other favorite story was when I had Nick Nolte. And this was when I was a poor executive director of a film festival. And it was really cute. He came because he was, at that time, he was on the wagon. And so even though we went through about 5 bottles of Grey Goose in his room, it was my most expensive guest. And so we go out to dinner, take him out to dinner. And it's crazy stuff. I had all the guys from Spinal Tap there at the same time too. And I'm like juggling everybody. And I had like a $200 gift card, right, for dinner that I had managed to get. And so he orders lobster and I order the side salad because I know he's going to drink his dinner. So anyway, halfway through dinner, I realized he's not eating the lobster. And I said, are you going to eat that? So I wound up eating Nick Nolte's lobster, where he told me he's a really fascinating guy too.
Oh, I'm sure.
So tell me a little bit about, all the accomplishments you've had. Then you decide to pile on it with writing a book. Let's talk about the book. What was that like? What was the success of the book? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I sold 2 copies and I gave away about 4,000.
Tom bought one.
And I know, and the other person who bought was my mom. It was a great process. I smoked way too much pot early in my career at the knitting factory. So I was not remembering all these stories, because there's so many fun stories that I learned from, and occasionally the synapses I'll remember, and then it translates into a story. And I was like, into a learning lesson from the story. And I was like, I got to start writing. And then I forgot to write anything down. And then I was actually, I had just read Patti Smith's Just Kids. And she was in one of my shows at Carnegie Hall, and I had just finished it and I knew she was going to be there. And so I brought my book backstage and I was like, I was sitting with her and I was like, what an amazing, how do you remember all these details, these like beautiful, fine, intricate components to, your life, and with, Robert Mapplethorpe and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, I always, keep a diary. I do a lot of writing. And I'm like, I'm such a schmuck, and so actually the next day I just started writing, and I would get up a little bit early. I would try not to deal with email and all kinds of other bullshit from work. And I'd take like an hour and I just started writing. And I'm doing a little bit now on Substack. It's been kind of fun, just
love Substack.
It's so great. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, my great basketball player, but what a brilliant writer. Anyways, Substack, go, if you're watching, go subscribe. But it's free, but the process,
it can be, you can subscribe.
I know, but luckily I got
a lot of it's free.
Luckily I have a gig with City Winery still, but it's the process for me of just writing the thoughts down and then actually seeing it in black and white and helping, and with an editor who then helped,
Yes.
rethink some questions. So it was a terrific process. Will I ever do another one? I don't know. Certainly not based on the sales. But it was a cool process. And look at in the weird role of what I'm doing with so many employees and trying to do the right thing as an industry leader, I'm on some level, I got to puff up my own balloon, to position myself as a macher would always wanted to be. Now I'm getting too old, but so anyways, it's part of, I guess, me now.
Yeah, it's part of who you are. And I just started recently taking dance lessons at Arthur Murray, and I love it because it brings in all new brain skills and memory skills. And I think probably people like you and me like to scare ourselves, like to try new things, like to push ourselves. I think that's part of, I want to say part of our identity, part of a tribe thing, maybe.
Yep.
But it's just something I always want to scare myself and do something new and push myself to new limits.
I totally agree. I mean, I don't see the perfect correlation to golf, but I do actually, I love golfing too. And you brought up the zen of golf, and while some people might but there is so much of that in it. And in a certain way, writing has a very similar overlap of it. I mean, you can golf with a foursome or a friend. I enjoy golfing alone sometimes as much, or with someone who also, and where you don't have to talk the whole time. And because it is such a one-on-one thing, it's that fucking little ball getting into a hole way to hell, 400 yards down. And it can be easy, and it can be so infuriating. And writing, very similarly, it's like you and the screen, and trying to formulate the right shot and construct
True.
Yeah.
And shaping the shot, as you would, using that metaphor. Because I write my newsletter, personally, I write the newsletter every week that I publish. And I hope those of you who are listening subscribe, because I try to provide valuable information about what's going on in the industry. I spend a lot of time curating that and looking for things that not everybody else is covering. Because of course you can read Polestar and all of that, but I want to come at it from a different angle, because what I do is different from anybody else in the country. There's nobody else who does, not to toot my own horn here, but I'm the only company that does this. And it's,
you have a very, very unique and very important gathering and place for people to share information. That doesn't, Polestar is,
Polestar's a different animal, and I get to speak there, and I'm thrilled that I get to have that imprint there.
Yeah.
But to me, the culture of festival is so important, and that's why I do it. And it's like you. I mean, you've created this wonderful, intimate experience that, to me, is the best experience to hear live music, in my opinion.
Thank you. This actually dovetails with one of these comments Sohrab wrote. We've created a unique platform, and it's not that unique. I mean, P.T. Barnum was doing it, with the circus and sold beer, down at the Battery in Lower New York, 160 years ago. So, I mean, connecting entertainment with alcohol sales is sort of has been going on for a long time. And sports, same thing, but in our world of live music, comedy, I don't do festivals really anymore, but in the venues,
I'm kidding.
In the venues, the ticket money that comes in, and this is addressing this question, the ticket money that comes in, 75 to 80% of the ticket is going to the artist.
Right.
We don't even really dictate the price of the ticket. If Graham Nash, we were talking about, wants $25,000 a show, and we have 320 seats, we got to price the tickets to cover the $25,000. And, our focus then is going to the food and beverage sales.
Of course.
And so like that simplicity of, and I like to sometimes joke that, we operate a lemonade stand, we're a place that the artists can perform and they make all the money that comes in from the tickets. And then our job is to sell lemonade, to all these butts that are in the seats. And that's why we try and focus so much on the intimacy and the quality of the food and our menu, et cetera. But yeah, just to be clear, like, we're part of an ecosystem in live entertainment where majority of that ticket, at least 75% on average annually for us, is about 82% of that ticket price goes to the artist. And I love that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for the transparency on that. I don't think, or maybe they do, but a lot of people don't know that the money is always made in the food and beverage. And so, I focus on in the Libero. That's one of the things that I think are really important with these venues, is to make sure you're doing that correctly, because that's where you're going to make your money.
Yeah.
So
about it. I mean, and it's nice to see the big stadiums, and arenas all trying to upgrade their food and their burgers, and some plant-based. No one, I would have never thought at MSG you could get an Impossible Burger, but the world, it's moving that way. That's where we've been, for a long time.
Right. Well, this has been so great. We could do this all day, but I think we're sort of at the end of our time. Is there anything else you think we should
I want to go, I think you and I need to go golfing. We've never golfed together.
We have not golfed together. So yeah, this is the beginning of a great golf friendship.
I would like that. I'm a member at a little swanky joint, lower Manhattan. You take a boat to New Jersey and
let's do it. We'll do it. And then we'll go to the folk festival and,
are you going this year?
I don't know. I don't know, but I am a member. I was a member at Newport Country Club. So,
well, I'm going to bring my golf clubs to Newport then. But
see if we can make that happen.
I am going for the whole time, for the first time ever, where I'm going to stay the week in between folk and jazz and set up camp and work from up there, just to not deal with the traffic.
Well, we'll have to find out where you'll be. I see Tom is here, so we'll wrap it up.
All right.
Tom's been here the whole time taking notes. This has been fabulous. I promised the audience that they would leave smarter and more inspired, and I think we delivered in spades. Michael, I learned a new word today, macher.
I have a lot of Yiddish to teach you, Tom.
Yeah.
And hearing it in your accent is charming as can be.
The Yiddish language is the absolute best. It really.
Previously, my favorite Yiddish word was always Mensch, and you did use that too.
Well, there's a lot of overlap between German and Yiddish.
That's right.
And Mensch certainly is, but the Yiddish sometimes just takes it and gives it a little more nuance.
Yes. My mother never spoke English until she was 6 years old. She only knew Yiddish. I know. Really? Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Wow. Anyway, fun facts.
Well, I am going to be in Newport, and I look forward to seeing you both. I love to play golf, but I suck, and I'm a lot of fun.
We didn't say we were good.
Well, anyway, would love to hack it around with both of you sometime. But listen, to the audience, you got yourself a treat today, and I knew you would. These are two rock stars. Support City Winery, support Fest Forums, and be nice to each other. And with that, I will say good day. Take care, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.